And you know what that means? We are live on our YouTube channel, Tackle Trading's Halftime Report. I've got Noah, I've got myself, Coach Tim, here from Tackle Trading to break the markets down, talk about the news, talk about some companies that are grabbing our attention. Noah, how are you doing today?
I'm absolutely fantastic. Thrilled to be here as always.
Let's get right down to business, brother. I am as well. There's a lot of really interesting things going on in the market today. Obviously, more bullishness across the broad market. The market seems to be shrugging off the coronavirus COVID-19 news like they have been now for a few weeks. Let's start with the S&P 500 if you can. And, you know, we got Fed minutes here in a few minutes. In fact, 90 minutes from now, you should get a release from the Federal Reserve about their minutes from the last meeting. Probably going to be a snooze fest, Noah. I can't imagine the Fed minutes are going to impact the market when the Fed meetings aren't really impacting the market. Anything you'll be looking for from that?
No, just the tone of the rhetoric. And I suspect it's going to be quite accommodating, would be what I expect.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been accommodative. I mean, Powell was on the Hill in Washington, D.C. last week, and he basically, you know, they threw softballs at him. He's like, okay, we're going to maintain the current position until we have to. And if we have to, we'll lower rates and we'll keep flooding the market with money. It's essentially the takeaway I got. It's going to be interesting to read what is in those minutes. S&P 500 here keeps chugging along, Noah. You know, 3,400. We're already up, you know, for the year. I don't even know what the percentage is, 5, 6, 7%, something like that. We're hitting some pretty impressive runs here. What's your expectation for stocks right now?
Boy, you know, it's just one of those things where it seems to defy gravity. I see some of these chart patterns where, you know, a couple of years back, I might have suspected a correction in the market to dip, but it just powers on through. It does not seem to hit that selling tipping point nearly as often. And it just, again, it kind of defies gravity at this point in time. So it continues to press higher, and you know, big, strong, beautiful candle today so far, closing near the high, just within a hair's breadth of that all-time high from, you know, established yesterday. So it just pressing on to those highs.
Yeah, it does. It just keeps chugging along. And obviously, I mean, the NASDAQ is actually the strongest one out of all the different indexes. I was looking at the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P, and the Russell like I do each and every day. And I mean, just a juggernaut in tech. I don't know how you could bet against that chart right there, no? It's
No,
just
I
so
wouldn't.
bullish.
It's so bullish. The momentum's increasing. The steepness of the trend's actually accelerating. You notice those moving averages starting to, their angle is starting to get steeper and steeper. And so, you know, that's a really strong run. Again, you know, are we going to see which do you think is going to hit first, 10,000 here or 9,500? Well, based off of the momentum and the trajectory, I'm going to have to go with that 10,000 number.
I would not bet against the trend. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the 9 EMA is just riding the lightning right there. The candles are just bullish, green, 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 just chugging along. And there's a lot of notable strength across really, really big tech names. We'll get to those here in just a minute. Take a peek at the Dow, though, kind of underperforming just a hair. And there's more complexity in the Dow, you know, Caterpillars and the Boeings of the world and, you know, credit card companies like American Express and Visa. But here's the thing. I mean, the Dow is still bullish, still looking good, maybe not as good as the S&P or the NASDAQ, but still bullish here, Noah.
Yeah, and I actually like the setup. It's not far off the base. It's not giving me vertigo as far as like how high it is. I'm not getting readings of overbought. It's a little pullback into a known support resistance zone after poking up to a new high. And it's got a bullish candlestick in there, kind of not quite a harami, but it's that's, you know, got that nice bullish look to it. And from here with the low base, I'd feel a little more comfortable entering in, you know, on the Dow that it's lagging, but it catches up is kind of what I think this chart, you know, body language is indicating at the moment.
Yeah. Russell 2000, Condor traders, beware. We are approaching a very major resistance zone here around 1705. Depends on where you want to draw that zone up here, Noah. But those pivot points right around that 1700, 1705, 1710 mark. If we break above here, I think you've got 40, 50 points to the upside.
Well, yeah, and you know, a word to the Condor traders out there: the quicker you take action on a breakout, the better, more effective it is.
Yeah.
You know, waiting for those condors to hit your pain threshold before you take action is not wise. So anytime a key technical level breaks and a key resistance zone breaks, you got to expect price is going to run, and this is setting itself up to do so. Now, again, how much energy and how much momentum it gets out of that, hard to say at this moment. But when it breaks in the past, you go back and look at it, it has a good, strong tendency to pop.
As I'm looking at this here, by the way, you're right. The quicker you take action on a breakout, you probably are going to be in a better position if you know how to hedge or exit those plays. If you don't, I mean, you got to run your trading plan. There's no doubt about it. If your trading plan is to wait for it to get to your strikes, Noah, and you don't have the skills to hedge, I mean, what would you do in that situation?
Well, panic probably. I would panic and freak out and stress out because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm going to do. No, but it's one of those things where the hedging and repair and exit strategies on those types of those or techniques on those types of strategies are more effective the quicker you take action. Long before it gets to those strike prices. By the time you hit the strike prices, you're in a weird place of pain that makes decision making tough.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. By the way, welcome out to our show here. If you're out there watching the show right now, give me a quick thumbs up. And by way of kind of building our community and letting everybody know where everybody's out there, put in the chat where you're watching the show from right now. Always kind of curious about stuff like that. We've got a great audience, a loyal audience. People come here every day, and it's always good to kind of see, okay, people from New Jersey or Texas or wherever it might be, let us know where you're at. Crude oil here, Noah, bouncing. There's no doubt about it. In fact, you've got a little W breakout developing here. I think it's far too early for conservative crude oil traders to want to come in and do something. But what's your read here?
Well, I got to admit, listening to Matt and Mark on the halftime report yesterday, talking about, they're quite bearish on oil, and rightly so. But the seasonal trader geek in me is wondering right now if this is setting itself up for that March through May oil run.
Sure.
And I like the W. I like the breakout. It's gotten above the 20s. And I would probably wait for a retest in this case. But I actually have a seasonal expectation built in. And that bias has served me well, but it also is something that doesn't work every year. It's one of those things where maybe, 80% of the time or 70% of the time it's effective. But this year the prices are low. Those inventory reports are going to be coming in. Seeing it recover off the 50, I think definitely lends some confidence to people who'd be willing to sell puts and things or credit spreads down below support. But as far as like taking a directional run on it, I'd like to see a retest.
Absolutely. By the way, that chart is a damn mess. Yeah. I mean, I do like the fact that it bounced off support and found support, but you got old support that develops into new resistance. We haven't even completely confirmed above all of those levels. I know we're getting there, but we're still below the 50 and the 200 period moving average. We're now above the 9, which is curling. So very aggressive traders and bullish traders are probably rejoicing right now. But man, to me, I would just call it neutral personally. I would just call it neutral. And I know in the short term, you've got strong green candles, but it's not like you have more volume coming in here on the bounce than you did on the sell-off, Noah.
No, in fact, it's diminishing a bit. If you look at that volume, yeah. And again, volume's a tricky, it's an indication. It's a piece of data or an indicator here that I think is really important and oftentimes overlooked by traders. But to me, what it signals is measures of participation. And when I see, prices coming down and the measure of participation increasing, well, there's both buying and selling going on in there. But it always comes down to me kind of a question of posture. And when I see that kind of volume kicking in on a downward move, it tells me that there's been some selling pressure in there. And then when you see the rally come in and then the volume and participation levels drop, well, then I think to myself, well, the down had more force and more participation than this corrective rally does at the moment.
And so... Yeah, it's a good point. It's a really good point because the pressure from the volume is an indicator of institutional intent and how many sellers came in aggressively and did sell. Volume's not bad bouncing back here, Noah, but it's by no means better than what it was when it was selling, for sure.
No, it's still above average, but it is one of those things where I do pay attention to participation levels in the rises and the runs and the corrections and the falls of the price action. And so to me, it's always been a strong indication. And the one thing I'll tell you that does show me here is as support kicked in, you had a pretty good amount of participation in there over a couple of days where you had above average volume all through that support zone, which means to me that it becomes a stronger reference point for those institutional investors because people are bought and sold down here at these prices. And if that becomes their break-even point, or that's their point of reference from their transaction, that's one of the reasons that support and resistance tend to be self-affirming, concepts, is because it becomes that reference point. And whether it's people just looking at the chart for the first time, seeing that 50 support, or if it's an institution that, made transactions at 50 and that's their reference point for, their transaction price, it's an important price level.
Yeah, definitely is developing a support point there. We'll see if it retests. I mean, I think a retest, more development. The next trade might actually be a little bit down the road. Gold broke out. And from a closing perspective, I know it ticked up here in the futures market early in January where it was up this high. But from a candle by candle close perspective, looks like it's going to close at the highest point it's been in quite some time here, 5 or 6 years, Noah. Definitely bullish. I mean, would you put that +1, +2? Like, how do you read that?
Well, because it's gold, I'm not going to go super bullish. I mean, I get bullish on gold, but it's gold. It's not the type of thing where except for when the market gets scared, you don't normally see huge trends out of it. But it is breaking out and it is closing above 1600. And yesterday we were talking about that close above 1600 was what we were waiting for to signal a breakout. And I thought that price level was significant, had it just tested and poked its head up above 1600 and then closed back below it. It tells me that the bulls weren't as committed to that price level. But the fact that we've closed above it yesterday and then today we're trading above yesterday's close so far, I think another close above resistance here is a strong bullish indication.
Two quick more charts on the metals market. Palladium literally just keeps hitting all-time highs. That little W breakout, those big red candles that we were so concerned about, guess what? I mean, they look small in comparison to the breakout and the move that we've seen over the last 6 months or a year. Give me a quick /PA chart if you can.
Look at that pop.
Unbelievable.
I couldn't even help that whistle, Tim. That's just what happens. Like it wasn't even a conscious decision. I just looked at the chart and I was like, wow.
Sure.
Look at that candlestick. This candlestick is the type of thing I could talk about as a technician for a while. It shot up to that 27.55 today, and then it's given up that ground, and we've seen profit taking coming right back in. But look at that break and look at that volume on that. That's high participation. You're getting your profit taking out, and any sort of retest in here. I think I like the idea of buying that setup. But after you get a pop like that and an immediate pull back down, I usually switch time frames, Tim, and I'll go down and say, okay, well, 2400 is resistance. That's my new support zone that I'm watching out for, and I would come down into a 15-minute chart and just think about trend trading from here. Watch and see if support forms off this bottom. And this is I'm on a 15-minute time frame here. But if I can see a support zone forming here anywhere between 25 and all the way down to 2400, that becomes I think a buying signal for you.
I'm with you, brother. No doubt about it. And then copper real quick, because copper is so sensitive to what happens in China. I read a really interesting report that I actually tweeted out and put on my Facebook page as well from FactSet. And FactSet's a real great fundamental kind of research website. They talked about the global impact of what this coronavirus COVID-19 is going to do. And copper is right in the crosshairs here, Noah. Bear retracement. Give me a read on the chart.
Well, I'll tell you what, that run down, this is a great example of everything we've been talking about, Tim. The run down on this with tons of momentum and increasing volume, that is a sign of big bearish sentiment. And now you got this rally, you got this pop that came in on pretty decent volume initially. And then as you see it continuing to rise here, the volume's been dwindling. But it slowed down. It put in a solid little correction here, and then this next little run up here really doesn't have a lot of mustard on it, and it's slowing down right into that known support resistance zone. So this is the kind of thing where if I back it out to a weekly chart, I look at this as a bear retracement, Tim. I just think drop, candle, doji, support resistance zone. This is what they sometimes refer to as a dead cat bounce. And it's not a lovely term, but that's what they call it.
Well, I mean, it does paint quite the visual, by the way. And some of the market terms are pretty dark. Let's just say that from back in the day, the dead cat bounce, don't catch a falling knife, the death cross, things like this. I mean, who's making this up? I guess traders from the 20s.
Pessimists.
Yeah. It is what it is. The US dollar is king dollar for now. It's been king dollar for a long time. It is rallying and very, very bullish. Highest levels in years here, Yeah. And there's nothing negative to say about that chart. You're breaking out again here.
Well, I'll find something negative. Don't you worry. The RSI is overextended. That's it. It's gone too high. That's the problem with it. So yeah,
Well, I challenge you to find something negative about my Bitcoin chart. All right. So
okay.
overstretched on the dollar, fine. But you try to find something that you don't like about this chart.
It's Bitcoin.
Yeah, just Bitcoin.
That's the only
Maybe
thing
the
I got.
volume
Otherwise,
bar yesterday.
chart wise, it's good looking. Well, that volume bar, even though it dipped, Tim, I'd go dissect that intraday and see where the bulk of the volume came in because that hit a rising 20. And the fact that that came down and almost to the penny bounced off of that rising 20, it makes me like your Bitcoin chart. I'll admit it.
Yeah, I still like it as well. You know, the broad market, stock markets are bullish. Crude oil's neutral. Gold, very bullish as well, having a beautiful day. The dollar bullish and Bitcoin bullish. I mean, it's the market of bulls right now, Noah. You know, most risk on asset classes are moving higher here today. Let's talk some companies here. There's actually more interesting news in corporate news. I think we have to start with Tesla, like every day these days.
Yeah.
Tesla, another gap out, 6.8%. This might go down in my career as the most impressive short covering rally that I've ever seen.
Well, what's the short interest down to these days? Like
Like,
last I saw it was under 20%. It was down at like 18%.
you know, based on what I'm looking at, 17% now.
Wow.
They're getting pummeled. You know, they're just getting destroyed. The amount of money that short sellers have lost betting against this company is incredible. Just from start of the year till right now, we're talking billions and billions and billions of dollars, and they're forced out of these positions. And by the way, analysts continuing to have to upgrade it. Piper Sandler raises their target to 928. Here's the thing, Piper Sandler, you're already there. Now you might have to raise it again tomorrow. I don't even know how you could be an analyst for Tesla. Like
Well, you would have to use your imagination, really, because like it defies a lot of logic. You know, when you look at it from a fundamental perspective, the stock price has grown 400% or something like that. Well, has their productivity increased 400%? Has their production increased 400%? Has their output increased 400%?
No. Oh, you're talking noise. I mean,
noise, fundamentals, blah, blah, blah.
Actually,
don't
you want them to build cars. You want them to build cars and actually show increased growth in revenue. Yeah. They are doing some of that, actually. Sales year over year have been up. They keep issuing more shares. You know, even in this rally, Noah, they keep pushing more shares out onto the marketplace. And it still goes up.
Well, and again, you know, we had this on the scouting report. We had this on the options report. We liked it for a breakout. We disclaimed it, saying this is a big boy trade only. And we put our targets at 900 and 1,000, and we joked about it. We joked about it in our scouting report meeting, saying, "Oh, just 900 and 1,000. It's not even a problem for that."
It was too aggressive for me. I passed, by the way.
I didn't take the trade either. We talked about it. I didn't feel the urge to chase the dragon.
Yeah. Team tackle out there. Anybody catch a little piece of Tesla? Anybody have a trade on Tesla, play it one way or the other? Interesting to hear who are my Tesla players. I know the whole market's talking about it every day. It's an incredible chart, beautiful setup on the option report from the weekend. I just, you know, I don't have an aptitude for that kind of risk right now. I don't have the taste for it, Noah. I like the conservative cash flow, cover call, naked put credit spread stuff. So chasing Tesla, chasing the dragon wasn't for me.
Daniel's bull puts. He says, "Yep, bull puts." And I bet your bull puts wish they were long calls right now. That's for sure.
I looked up a back test on. I got to interject. I looked up a back tested price on a long call. If you bought a long call on Tesla on Thanksgiving Day for $5,000, it's worth 55,000 right now.
Almost enough to buy a tricked out Tesla E-Class.
Down payment on the Tesla. Day trades for AR, too risky for some people's taste. Some people got some debit spreads. Went risk-free trade, crazy trade on the bid ask. It was on paper, expiring this Friday for the reaping. And Daniel tickles the dragon. All right, I like that, Batman. You know, I mean, hey, listen, if somebody's going to tickle dragons, it's probably Batman. Interesting company, no question about it. Not the only company I want to talk about. Visa. This grabbed my attention, and Dave Kaiser, you the man for bringing this one and dropping it on our desk here today. Visa actually
tells me something. The fact that young David here, and I like to call him young David because he just makes me think that he's young. He's not, but he's kind of new to this game. How long has he been at it? 2 years now, maybe a year.
Maybe a year, Dave.
Maybe a year.
Not quite a year, but getting there.
Yeah. See, I'm already overestimating your abilities because you brought that beautiful chart read, which means he's learning.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
learning well.
It's a beautiful setup on Visa. It's a breakout on Visa. I like the chart. I think you missed the entry point by a couple of days, but I even like the news as much or more because I'm a Bitcoin fanboy. I wish Matt was here so that he could rant against me, but we'll see if you can do your best Matt impression here. Bitcoin and Coinbase, which is one of the biggest Bitcoin issuers in the world because people got so accustomed to Coinbase. They partnered with Visa. So Coinbase and Visa are going into a partnership to where Visa is going to sponsor debit cards. There was a lot to the news Dave talked about. But whenever I see news headlines like this, Noah, it's a reminder to me when huge credit card companies are interested in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin's not dead. Obviously, it's not dead. All of the fanboys that got pulled into the big bubble in 2018, they've been shaken out, but the institutions, even the central banks, are still interested. What's your reaction to this news, by the way?
Well, my number one concern with it, Tim, is that the Bitcoin fanboys are really becoming vocal again. For a while they were quiet. They didn't talk much, but they're talking again. See, we told you Bitcoin would be back. We told you, and it's back. And the fact that they've made this deal, I think it adds a lot of legitimacy to their claims. That's the thing I've been waiting for with cryptocurrencies all along is adoption by institutions, not just the fanboys out there.
Yeah. And we've seen that, even adding the options to the futures market, I think was huge news. And I think that we're seeing more and more of these storylines come out over time, more on crypto over the course of the next couple of years. I'm sure it's going to be a very, very, very fascinating market as we move forward. Some other companies grabbing my attention, Blue Apron. Here's a lesson, guys, and if you're a long-term member of our Team Tackle community, halftime crew, what do we say about IPOs? We don't usually play them, Noah. Blue Apron IPO'd about a year and a half ago, whenever that was on that first part of that chart. They were a $2 billion company at IPO. They deliver the food to your door. I've never used them. I know you've used them in the past.
Yep.
I've heard good things about them, by the way.
Well, it was a nice service. I enjoyed it. It made you think like you could actually cook. Like it was kind of cool. And the fact that it was a convenience, everything delivered to your door, I really, really liked. But their competition came in and there was a lot of competition. And so I think the market share on this just got diluted. And, in fact, they even canceled, like I was still using the service and they stopped delivering. They notified us one day, we're no longer delivering. Well, you can get us at the grocery store.
So you have to go to the store to do it.
Yep.
The company's losing tons of money.
At least in my area where I'm at, so they may still deliver elsewhere, but yeah, that's a big losing prospect. And like you say, that's the big risk with the IPO. They're trying to raise capital to run a business and they hadn't turned a profit yet. And here they are again losing. And so they got, what is that?
And the thing about it is food delivery services to your door. I mean, I see Uber Eats losing money on that. Blue Apron has been losing massive amounts of money on that. I don't know if consumers are ready to pay what it would take for these companies to be profitable. Great ideas, but competition comes into the market, Noah. I know Walmart has similar products that you can go and get pre-done meals at when you're doing your regular shopping. The company's losing lots of money. They're considering closing their doors and selling off their assets is what I read. Not a great story. I love that. I love capitalists, trying to go out there, do something innovative, entrepreneurial. But man, this is a lesson right there that not all these IPOs end up turning out very well, right?
Well, and that's one of the reasons capitalism works, Tim, is because people are allowed to fail. People are allowed to take risks. Businesses that don't get the magic formula dialed in, that aren't as efficient, they do fail, and so they don't end up getting subsidized, and you don't throw bad money after a project that's not working. And it is a survival of the fittest type environment out there, but it's to the benefit of the consumer at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So, this is an interesting chart and a good cautionary tale.
Could I talk you into buying the stock down here?
No.
Nothing about that chart interests you, right?
No.
Do you remember when you were a new investor where you thought some of these might be golden gems and you
Oh
wanted
yeah,
at a bottom
come on, they're not going to go out of business. It couldn't. How it can't possibly get any cheaper than this, can it?
Right, I've heard that so many times in my career.
It can.
Groupon, another failed company in many regards, getting beat up badly here, Noah. I mean, this was a stock. If you go back to a weekly chart and you look at the big picture of this company, a couple of years ago, this was a huge company. People used it all the time. I knew friends and family who thought it was a great service and all that kind of stuff, but it has fallen out of favor. Good couple of lessons here today that when a company's fundamentals start to fail, They don't just fix themselves with time. If there's something structurally wrong in the business model, eventually the stock can come down to become a penny stock, just like this group. Ugly, ugly chart, no question.
You can get your Groupon for just $1.83. That's a deal.
Does anybody out there use Groupon still? I don't use it personally. I'd be curious.
I have not used a Groupon in a long while.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think for a while it was a good advertising angle for people, but I think a lot of it comes down to, well, as far as advertising goes, it was a loss leader for businesses.
Yeah.
And that's what their kind of model was, is we can give you a loss leader to get people into your door. And every time I used a Groupon personally, I never really went back to that business again. Just took advantage of the Groupon. And so I think it was less effective than the people who were using it for advertising had hoped.
A couple of more positive stories around companies, a couple of negative ones, reminders, good lessons to learn, no question about it. Take a look at space, though. Talk about.
Hey, hold on, Tim. I got to get ready because I saw this chart earlier, and that's going to make me want to whistle. Look at that thing go.
That's a pretty good whistle. That's a pretty decent whistle. I mean, are you the kind of guy that if you were in a gym coaching ball, you could do the two-handed whistle really loud?
No. It's one of those things I have failed at in life. I am not a power whistler.
Those old
I can whistle a tune, but I cannot call people to the dinner, with the whistle.
Yeah, my old PE teacher, he could do that, and it was so loud it would grab your attention from 100 yards away. There's no doubt about it. Virgin Atlantic here, by the way, there was news related in the space. SpaceX, which is not the same company, but not publicly traded the way this one is, they're announcing that they're going to be launching commercial flights for human beings around to orbit the Earth very, very soon. Virgin Atlantic, by the way, also in the space game. And this stock has gone parabolic in the short term, Noah. Give me a read on that chart, because that thing just blasted off. Obviously, easy puns, easy analogies.
Easy puns, rocket analysis, parabolic, escaping gravity. I mean, all of those things apply here. The red candle's out top. So you got all that momentum. This is a really clean cup and handle breakout right here, Tim. And we talked about it, and the nature of this business makes me think this is just one of those speculative money plays only. This is not the kind of stock you trade with the capital that you need, to pay the rent money with. This is a pure spec play, and it's a beautiful chart, and it's got a lot of momentum. Those red candles out there make me think of Tesla. Like, you'll probably see a pullback. You'll probably see it settle back into those rising moving averages. The rocket can take off. Can it land is the question.
I like it.
Yeah.
Good question. I mean, can it have a soft landing? No question about that. Good question to ask. If you're a momentum trader, kick it on a watch list. There will probably be an entry point at some point for those of you who like to play very aggressive, high volatility type plays. Other companies grab my attention. ADI had their earnings last night and actually had a pretty good beat. Gapped out, little doji above here, but that's a long-term consolidation you're gapping out into, Noah. I actually like that chart.
That is, and if it can maintain its little gap out here, we got a couple new lines in the sand. Gaps do fill, so if it crosses back below the low, gets back below that support resistance zone, you might see a gap fill. Yep. But when it gets out above resistance like that, Tim, that becomes a support resistance zone in there that might be actionable for the day traders. You might see a follow through on that. If it can take out the high, that puts you on that buying path. So this is one of those where the initial knee-jerk reaction, now for me, it just comes down to, is it going to take out the low and fill the gap, or is it going to take out the high and run? Or third possibility, of course, is it consolidates around 125 and hangs out at that new price level before picking a direction.
Yep. NVIDIA had an upgrade. Same kind of space here as well. Technology.
I can't even control. I've got to control the whistle this time, but that I can't do it. Yeah, it's good.
Dude, pivot to pivot, pay range analysis. I mean, just basic stuff that you learn when you take charting courses, or you go through like our playbook or our courses over on tackletrading.com. That's increasing momentum. You have a beautiful trend that's now even expanding into a more beautiful trend. Now, technicians, they don't usually enter here, right?
No, it's got that overbought condition. I'm reading my RSIs at 80. That's high. That's not a time to buy, but I'll tell you what, any pullback off of this got my attention.
You gotta grab it on a watch list if you're a bull. There's no question about that. Many other companies I do want to talk about. One of them is Zoom Technologies. Tonight we have our Tackle 25 Mastermind group, and as a matter of fact, if you're watching the show right now, just put in Tackle 25 Mastermind tonight. Somebody put that in the chat so that everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Well, everybody should come because it's all the cool kids are going to be there. They have a great instructor tonight.
You're teaching?
I am teaching. Yes, I am teaching. So yes, you should come. It'll be fun. The more people are there, the more fun we'll have.
Well, and I love the Tackle 25. I use all the watch list quite regularly. I go back to them. I trade them in different ways. And I went through them, and I got to tell you, Zoom, which is on, the Dirty Sexy Money list, just a blast out company, one of the better performers this year so far, up near resistance. Now, if you had things like covered calls here, you're probably letting them expire, maybe even take your stock, or rolling or managing. Earnings coming up next month. But what a beautiful performer. And no, one thing I loved about this chart, the downtrend into a W, into a breakout, into a developing uptrend. How many of the companies that we've looked at that you've whistled at today had that reversal characteristic at some point in the last 6 months? Many.
And that's a textbook example. That is exactly what I'd look for in a textbook, where you've got that, the double bottom, you got the moving average crossovers, you've got the establishment of a new high, a retest at a support resistance zone. I mean, this really plays out as technically, this is just a beautiful example of what reversal patterns should look like, what establishing trends can look like. And the one thing that does surprise me on this chart, Tim, is the amount of momentum. As soon as it becomes clear that this is establishing a new uptrend, boom, like the momentum, the volume kicking in, this actually is performing better than I might have expected. And it's just a good looking chart.
Beautiful. Yeah. So many out there. By the way, I actually found about 10 candidates on the Tackle 25 just today that I thought were legitimate candidates to do either something bullish on, cover call, naked put, bull put spread, you name it. Many on the list, even on the dividend list, like Lockheed Martin, I kind of liked where it was, about to break out. Roku actually had a nice earnings, kind of sitting on support. But one I really like right now is that Lyft, LYFT. I was talking about Uber, Lyft, and the debate between the two of them. I like this down here near support. Now, it needs to get back above it for a directional trade, Noah. But if it's something that you wanted to own anyway, do you think maybe like a boomerang down at $40, $35, if you get money deep out of the money, starts to make sense here for you?
Yes, if you're confident managing the risk. This company is very interesting to me. I like it directionally if it can get up above that 50 zone, above that newly established 200 period moving average.
Yeah.
As far as boomerangs go, I don't mind the idea of a boomerang, but this is one of those where it's currently below those moving averages, and it does have support zone right in here around 40, 43, 42-ish. So if that holds, you're in great shape. But also if that zone breaks, you could see it heading back down to that 37 low in very short order. So if you're confident managing a boomerang, yes, absolutely.
One more from the list, Pinterest. Take a peek.
Pins, P-I-N-S. Is that symbol pins?
I keep watching this, Noah. I keep watching this. I love that gap out.
I like the retest here. I like the fact that it's come off of the bottom. We're establishing higher highs and higher lows. You got a gap up on earnings and a pull back down right into the gap, filling the gap, rising 20, green candles. That's a technical setup I could have some fun with.
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. So many good setups today. One thing I do, even, as a 15-year veteran, I use the Tackle 25 and I use the reports. I do it every day. I mean, this is the way that I trade. We're out there and we're bird dogging for you on the weekend. I was actually traveling last weekend. So from the option report, I went out and I looked through all the candidates you guys had. By the way, Visa was on the report, and we talked about that breakout. SPGI was on the report. It's had a big move this week. Tesla was on the report. Guys, the reports and the list on the Tackle 25, that can really be the basis of a lot of your watch list. And then you have to then go and make your own decisions on how you want to play them, if you want to play them. But there's a lot of great charts and there's a lot of great setups on those lists, Noah. There's no question about it. By the way, even with the negative news on Apple yesterday, we're still sitting there about to break out, and it's on the report.
So
right?
Tim, I set up this trade on Apple to catch the breakout, and I set up an order for a debit spread, and then it gapped down, and I got filled anyway. And now I'm pretty glad that the trade worked out the way it did,
Yeah.
because it's already filling that gap. And we were talking about this yesterday. I actually think that little drop, the rally back up into the setup here, I think that makes this breakout chart pattern better looking than it was just before that, because now it's got more of a true ascending triangle type look to it. Whereas before, I was kind of worried about it being a little top heavy, kind of a rounding top, but now it feels much, much more like a clean breakout setup.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, I am excited about where the markets are. I still think there's plenty of opportunities out there. There's no question about it. We've got our mastermind group tonight, but I got to go. Noah, I got a student in town. Mickey, say hi to our community out there.
Hey guys.
Mickey Donnelly, all the way from Belfast, Ireland.
I'd like
New
Mickey
York
to
City.
say just a few more things to really catch that accent, because I heard him talking before. So I'd like to hear a little bit more of that Irish accent.
Noah, Mickey wants you to hear your Irish accent.
Hey guys, all the way from Belfast, the north of Ireland. Came here 15 years ago, never went home.
I love it.
That's beautiful.
I love it. All right, guys, I got to bounce myself. Noah, great job today. There's a lot going on in the markets. Minutes are coming out in about 50 minutes. We're going to be back tomorrow with our halftime report. If you're in our community, if you need some help, shoot us an email, team@tackletrading.com. If you're not in our community yet and you actually want to join a pro membership with Tackle Trading, the 15-day trial is always in the links. I think it's a no-brainer, Noah. There's no doubt about it, especially if you're an old veteran that what the value is. Come on back and join us, if you're not currently a member. And if you have never tried it out, can't really hurt to give it a 15-day trial and go check out what we're doing back there on the back end. Noah, great job today. Enjoy the rest of your day, my friend. Appreciate you. And Tackle community, we are out.